A call to order the meeting of the Jeffersonville Common Council. It is just after 7 o'clock. If everyone would please stand for the pledge and invocation. Mr. Samuel, let's pray.
Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We pray that you'd watch over our activities and help us as we conduct city business. We pray for our police and our fire, as well as the other employees of the city. Keep them safe, and thank you for what they do. We pray for the families that are hurting in this community and pray that we'll be able to assist them in some possible ways. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Righty. Roll call, please.
Councilperson White.
Present.
Councilperson Zastavny.
Here.
Councilperson Yon.
Present.
Councilperson Maples.
Here.
Councilperson Gill.
Here.
Council President Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Councilperson Rodriguez.
Present.
Let the record reflect all 9 council members are present.
Okay. Minutes to be approved. Minutes from October the 3rd.
Motion to
I have one thing I missed out. And of course, I know that it's trivial. In the minutes, it says that in my comments, where it was commenting on how well our police did in responding to a school incident. And in the minutes, it says that I was part of that process. I don't want to misrepresent what it was. I'm not part of that process. I was with the people who were part of that process. And I know that seems like a trivial thing, but I didn't want to make it seem like I'm more than what I am. So I'd just like to make that change.
Okay.
Motion approved with the change. Second.
Motion and a second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the agenda. We need to remove under old business number 4. That will not be considered and will not need to come back unless we hear otherwise.
Also,
Yes, ma'am.
Barbara Anderson won't be here, so Barbara Haas will be presenting for her.
Right. New business number 1, it will be Barbara Haas, not Barbara Anderson as originally thought.
A motion to approve with removal of number 4 under old business and changing the presenter to Barbara Haas under number 1 in new business.
Second.
Motion and a second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. I like the background music. Claims?
I have a few changes. On page 1, the very first one, the account number was incorrectly keyed, and it should be, instead of cell phone for the printer lease, it should be under contract services. Then on page 9, down there, about halfway down for the Sam's Club membership, that should be decreased to $45.
What page is on?
Page 9.
Page 9.
Yeah, we're just going with the 1 membership.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Is that all you have?
Decrease $90.
Decreased by 90, yes. And then I have 1 hand carry claim. It's to travelers that we just received, and is due before your next meeting. And it's for the commercial package added for the Freightliner fire truck. It was $482.
I received that by an email last night, and when I opened it up and I called Travelers, and then I had to call ISU Insurance Company. What happened, that's property and casualty, and because I said, well, we thought we were all paid up, and they said, no, this was the new one. This was for the new fire truck, So I've asked them from now on, when they do something like that, to notify me so I can notify you all.
How much was it?
482.
And I just wanted to, I have it marked here on page 19, but I see that Security Pros is here. I wanted to speak a little on that, Heather. We have I usually like to have the signed agreement contracts per se. Security Pros, we have it in our claim for $22,284, and that's because we're lumping everything together. It's a cost savings to the city, and we're talking with Heather. They're going to be taking that before Board of Public Works
Yes.
to get that approval.
This is for the Parks Department, yes.
Yes.
The Parks Department approved that contract at their last month's meeting.
And we get a discount.
We get a 5% discount.
Can somebody get me a copy of that contract, please?
And then I wanted to mention that too, because being that it cost savings to the city, I applaud that. Do you have any total?
Yes. $483,517.87.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims for $483,517.87. Second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Report of the clerk.
The only thing I have to say is last week, Lisa, myself, and Nathan, Heather, and Yvonne attended IACT. I think Rob and Dylan were there also. And we attended the 1782 notices workshops, the new Lloyd, which is now lit, which is very interesting workshop to attend, and some other ones, and it was very informative. I think you're all going to see some big changes in the way that lit is going to be brought down.
Okay. Unfinished business then. Mr. Ways. Mr. Merkley.
This is a requirement that we do once a year in reference to our abatements that have been granted by the City Council over the past several years that are still in effect, is to adopt a resolution determining or accepting the determination that they are in substantial compliance with what they initially said they would do on their SB1, and then they have to file a CF1. So the resolution is in the packet, and attached is Exhibit A, which is a large, or you have the smaller version of it, large. Oh, they have both, okay. Spreadsheet, which and details all the abatements that are presently in effect, whether it be personal property or real property, when they were granted, and for how long they were granted, what the business promised when they filed their original SB1, and then what they are currently doing under their CF1 as to jobs, and then also what they estimated their salaries would be originally and what their actual salaries are. And the Department of Redevelopment and the Redevelopment Commission has determined that these are in substantial compliance. There are some variations, but we have the notes listed indicating as to why there are some slight deviations from the original SB1 that was filed with the abatement request. I think your sheet is emitting under the last one at the bottom, StarTech. There was a large difference between what StarTech initially estimated, what they had filed with their SB1 as to the estimated salaries. They had filed back then in 2013. It looks like an estimated $17.1 million, but their actual salary that they're reporting as 7.5 million, but they've actually produced more jobs than what they had said they would produce. We spoke with representatives from StarTech, and I think you might have saw an article in the paper regarding StarTech. They're doing more expansions as well with hiring more individuals, but it appears that 17.1 million figure on the SB1, it was just an error, that it should have been the 7, right around, we believe it should have been 7.1, not 17.1, because they've actually hired more people than what they said they would.
The only one that stood out to me last when I was looking over this was the Arctic Minerals. They said job estimate 25, they only put 5. And of course, their SB1 was 800,000, and then their CF1 was the 202,574. Do we have any reason why they stayed so low in what they proposed in their job op?
I think it was noted,
Notes here, they've made their capital investments.
that they've invested over $5 million, but the market acceptance of their products has been slower than anticipated. They believe that they will be making some new hires next year. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the only one that kind of sticks out to me is the Fraudenberg Medical. Think about that situation, because it looks like current jobs from the SB1 was 154. Number of additional jobs to be added as a result of the project was 378.
Yeah, they have not hit their job mark, but they've surpassed their estimated salaries. They estimated they would have $17 million in salaries, and they are in excess of 19 million. So they have not produced as many jobs, but apparently they've produced jobs that pay more than what they originally anticipated. So for purposes of the
Completed this year.
But the local income tax, that's probably,
Since 2006 for 10 years.
Make a motion to approve 2016 R17.
Second.
It's a motion and second. Is there anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Incorabro, 16 OR 63, which is the amended salary ordinance for the year 2016.
Correct. Which only included the addition of the traffic bureau clerk for the clerk's office and the green space manager.
There haven't been any changes since we last...
No.
I'll make a motion to approve 2016 OR 63 on the third and final reading.
I'll second. It's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and up for 64, which is the salary ordinance for 2017.
And there have been no changes other than everything you all approved at the last meeting.
Make a motion to approve 2016 OR 64 on the third and final reading.
Second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Is this real?
You pinch yourself. All right, Heather Metcalf, on to number 5, 16 OR 65, which is the budget.
This is for final adoption tonight. The changes from last time was, I didn't write the page number down.
Oh, it's...
Is it 15?
Yes.
Yeah, page 15. The public arts administrator went to 50,000. That was the only change.
And there weren't any other changes other than what was... Did we took a vote on that? Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay,
Mr. Owen,
sir?
if I may, I'd like to pass out ordinance 2013 OR 10 There should be a copy for the clerk as well. When we, I believe a motion was made, and it was passed to raise a salary that in pay grade 5, and it's the public art administrator's salary, above the 25% that's listed in the salary ordinance for starting salaries. I realize that based on federal law, we were required to exceed that amount, which is where I believe the $47,500 came from. But since a motion was made and was voted to raise it beyond that, it's my understanding that, well, let me take a step back. The Parks Authority voted to pay that salary at $47,500. And when the motion was made and approved at the council meeting to go beyond that, it's my understanding that we violated or did not comply with the terms of the salary ordinance that was passed in 2013 and the salary administration policy, in that the proper procedure would have been for the administration to notify you of the increase beyond that, and for you to make a recommendation, Mr. President, to the council, and for us to then vote to increase that or decrease that, or to increase it or not, whatever that request would have been. And because that, it's my understanding, and I could be wrong, and I'm sure that there will be some to speak up on this, because that wasn't followed, I don't think that we should have kept that I don't think we should have raised the salary to $50,000. That doesn't mean in the future, if we do follow the proper protocol, that that can be done. But I think it's important that we as a council do the things, follow the rules, especially ordinances, which are laws that we pass. I think it's important that we follow the rules that we set for ourselves. And in light of that, and I welcome any questions. I've passed this out, which is the ordinance that we follow, and with the particular language, which is on, starts at page 4, which is the guidelines for determining individual pay rates. On page 4, there's a checks and balances measure. And on page 5 is the section which talks about determining new hire pay rates within a pay range. So, and that references if a new hire comes in at a rate above 25%, then that is to be addressed in the checks and balances measures section. In which case, just to be specific, the department head, human resources director, corporation counsel, financial officer, or the mayor would have to notify the, or at their suggestion, would have the HR director notify the city council president, at which time the city council president would then make a recommendation to the council. So just as a matter of principle, to make sure we follow the procedures that we set out for ourselves, I think we should revisit that issue and do it properly.
when you sent this to us early, and then you said you were going to give us a hard copy, in my eyes, we had an initial meeting. It was called by the administration. The mayor and Mr. Merkley was in attendance, myself, Matt Owen as president, and Nathan was there. Ed, were you at that one or not at that one? Well, this was brought to these positions, and the salary was discussed and brought to us in that meeting. And after that meeting, I went and had a conversation with HR, and in my eyes, we followed this through the term of substantial compliance. And I did consult both Mr. Lewis and Mr. Merkley. And is it your all's legal opinion that we did, through substantial compliance, that we did follow?
I mean, based upon the conversations I've had, I was asked to look into this, what meetings were taking place with the administration, corporate counsel, whatever. And I do believe that the policies were met, substantial compliance. And of course, the policy that's being referred to that's attached to ordinance, this is not the first time we've been through this before. I know several years ago, or some of the new members were here, that was brought up before. Those are guidelines. There's language in the policies that talk about intent, guidelines, and specifically page 7 of 11, the very last sentence of the policy guidelines, it's in bold print. It says no policy can cover every circumstance related to salary wage administration, and the city reserves the right to update and or modify any of the provisions of this policy at any time, just through an action, through a vote. It doesn't specify whether you're going to go and redo the policy or ordinance in writing or by vote. In conjunction with that, Indiana Code clearly, by Indiana statute, gives the ultimate authority to set any city salary to the city council. So obviously, in my legal opinion, these are guidelines. There's language within the guidelines that say that policies can be amended or modified at any time in conjunction with Indiana Code. So I don't see any problem with the actions that were taken with the salary for the public arts administrator.
And to take that a step further, I don't see any problem with me personally as a council person, because everything we discussed after that was all done in all the public hearings, public budget meetings. Everything was done in the public. We were open and forthcoming with everything during those meetings, as far as qualifications, the reasons why. I don't know if anybody wants to add that was in that meeting. I know. I think where there might have been a little miscommunication here is that the majority of the council wasn't aware that administration called that meeting. I don't think they realized.
The meeting was called to discuss if the position was going to be in the budget as an employee. I don't think the administration asked for a $50,000 salary in that meeting. It
was discussed.
Ask the council.
Do you remember that, Mr. Merkley? Because I remember, and that meeting was months ago, but I remember in every public meeting that we sat down and discussed new positions, especially in the Parks Department, it was said at every meeting that these numbers in the budget are placeholders until we get back something from the consultant on where these individuals are going to fall in the salary ordinance. Was $50,000 requested from the administration?
I'm not sure it was requested, but $50,000 was a figure that was thrown around. And obviously, if we're going to create a position,
Right.
there was discussion on how much is this position going to cost.
Right.
So I think the $50,000 figure was thrown around, and I think it was actually in the original
Requested budget.
budget.
Right.
The Parks Authority reduced it, so
It's just like we reduced the amount for the city partners that was originally requested at $80,000. And that was reduced also. So
I mean, the administration has had to deal with this wage policy for the past few years. We've tried to adhere to it as best as possible for all positions. I think one thing to point out is what was the intent of that policy when it was adopted prior to this administration coming in. I think the intent of the policy was to avoid any one branch of government, the executive or the legislative branch, having Parks Authority voted $47,000, that's why it's at $47,000, since there's $47,000.
I think it's important that we're just cognizant of the policies that have been put in place by councils before. This hasn't been the ideal situation, but we're talking about, and we've spent an enormous amount of time on $2,300 for this salary, and I think it's just, there have been several who have said that the policy wasn't followed. They feel the policy wasn't followed. Others feel the policy was followed. How much more time are we going to spend on $2,300? I think we need to accept that there is a policy. This does dictate a process that is outlined on how we're supposed to go through these things. And I hope that moving forward, we're going to be cognizant of those things.
I'll make a motion to approve 2016 OR 65 on the third, final reading.
Second. There is a motion and a second for 16 OR 65. And when this is passed around, there will be a different sheet than what you're used to. You will check your vote next to your name that's already printed, and then sign next to that check mark. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes.
And will that be the new way we do all of these?
That is how we do the budget.
Just the
Special.
The checkbox is very important, please, thank you.
Okay, Nathan Pruitt, 16 OR 66. This is the ordinance establishing the non-reverting fund.
I'd like to, actually, yes, this is
right
good. Yes, it is the right one. I apologize. All right, so I was just going to see if you all had any questions. I just reviewed the tape from last month on YouTube, or the last meeting, and it didn't seem like you all asked for any revisions, even though it's marked here, revisions requested. So there's no changes. I didn't know if you all had any other questions.
I did say that we have to be specific what's going into this fund.
Well, I think the discussion was that there is no existing fees going into this fund, but any new fees would have to be specifically stated to go into this fund, I think is where we arrived.
I think it was the second ordinance that specifies the new fees that are being created are going to this fund.
Correct.
Which is fine. That's what we talked about. So there's another ordinance that references this one.
Currently, I think as I stated last time, currently there's no fees being funded into this line. As of right now, if this were to move forward, it would be an unfunded line item right now.
An unfunded fund.
In hopes that we will find 3 or 4, 5 revenue streams to potentially fund into.
Well, and this was the one where you mentioned grants.
Yeah, grants could be deposited.
I'll make a motion to pass 2016 OR 66 and third and final.
Second. Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one, I meant to state when we approve the agenda, we need to table 16 OR 67, which is the ordinance establishing the landscape fee in lieu program.
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. Pruitt, while you're here?
Yes.
Just a quick question. How many code enforcement officers do we have?
We currently have 2.
Are they both full-time code enforcement?
They are.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Ms. Metcalf, public hearing for 16 OR 68. Is that just me? Sorry.
Yeah.
There's been no changes to this additional appropriation request since last meeting. Public hearing, please.
Yes. At this time, we're going to open a public hearing. Was there anybody who would like to speak for or against 2016 OR 68, which is an additional appropriation? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Okay, Kelly.
I will now make a motion to approve 2016 OR 68 on the third and final reading.
Motion and second. Anything further? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Ms. Metcalf, you again? 69?
And this transfer has not changed from the last meeting.
I just want to make a note that we did not receive an email or any reason why the pool staff, as we remember, I requested the reason behind that because it seemed like we've done several. I didn't know if it was overstaffing, understaffing, what the reasoning was, but
Did request
I
the
do want to
department
make
head get
note
in
that
touch with you
that
all
was-
about that.
we did not receive any feedback.
And it was my fault for not following up. We did discuss at the Parks Authority meeting today, prior to this, the pool staff this year they cut back on the number of staff, but then that in turn, I think, has led to more of an overtime with the staff that they did have. That's not a specific answer to the question that you had.
Well, that was the
That's
reason why
my
we
fault
moved
for-
it last time, and it seems like, well, if we have a problem, let's correct it. Let's not continue on with the problem. We got to appropriate more money is my stance on that.
Yes, and I think the authority is taking some actions to explore on how to correct those problems, mostly in regards to the concessions and how those are staffed and maintained. But I wouldn't want to go too far into that as they're working on some arrangements for next year. Still kind of working with a vendor to talk about doing some things differently.
Well, reluctantly, I will say 2016 OR 69, pass it on the third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there anything further? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Let's see, that brings us to new business. Ms. Haas, if you'd like to come forward. Just a little bit of background. Several weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago now, someone with the League of Women Voters, both locally and statewide, gave me a call and would ask to be on the agenda to discuss an initiative that they're taking on with the state legislature in relation to how redistricting is done on the state level. So I invited them to come and just speak on what they're doing, and so Ms. Haas.
Well, first of all, I'd like to, for you to know that Barbara Anderson planned on being here, but was caught in a flight situation coming in from D.C. So she called and asked myself, and I asked Shiloh to come with me. We're both not quite as experienced and knowledgeable as Barbara Anderson on the subject, so if you'd bear with us. I believe at the national level, the League of Women Voters, which everyone knows is a nonpartisan organization. It's neither Democrat or Republican. And the League of Women Voters believes strongly that redistricting done by the very same people who are going to benefit from it is wrong. And they're urging local governments to support them in asking legislators to change that, to appoint wait, what was it called? Shiloh, help me here. It's got a name.
Commission.
Well, it's an independent commission that would do the redistricting for our state officials, state lawmakers, and Senate state senators, state representatives, those ones whose districts are done at every 10 years. The league is still supporting the 10 years, but thinks that there should be some independent group that determines their districts. Districts are oftentimes shifted or created for that particular candidate because they know that's where their voting source is, and that is keeping newly people who are not incumbents from having a chance or an opportunity to serve. So that's basically all I know about it. Shiloh, do you have anything to say?
Not particularly.
I'm sorry that Barbara Anderson wasn't here. I'm sure she would have had a more lengthy presentation. So I think all that's requested tonight, Mr. Owen, if you'd help me here, is that the council just has some discussion about the topic. We're not asking for a resolution tonight, but certainly she wanted me to be sure and point out that if passed, Jeffersonville would be the 14th local government to pass this resolution. It's already been passed in Michigan City, South Bend, Lafayette, West Lafayette, Tippecanoe County, Vincennes, Anderson, Muncie, Crawfordsville, Bloomington, Monroe County, Muncie, I said that twice, and Montgomery County, as well as Kokomo. So it's important that local government offer their support for this redistricting reform because cities, towns, and counties are often divided by state legislative or congressional lines because of partisan gerrymandering, making it difficult to hold elected officials accountable and for people to know who their elected officials are. Barbara Anderson sent me that to make sure that I presented that tonight. Any questions? Any that either I or Shiloh might be able to answer?
Would you have anything that you could share on the specific legislation that the league is looking for as far as this independent commission, how that would be made up and who would make that up? And
the current redistricting process creates a conflict of interest as state legislators are effectively choosing their own constituents. The redistricting process should be conducted in an open manner with real opportunities for public dialogue and feedback, not behind closed doors. And public input and involvement in the redistricting process will empower our communities by allowing them to elect representatives who represent their interest on issues that are important to their lives. And the boundaries of state districts are currently drawn by legislative incumbents, often sacrificing the integrity of neighborhoods and cities. And important principles such as the protection of the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965 and respect for neighborhoods and cities should be clearly listed for a commission to abide by. Voters are more likely to participate when they feel that their vote will count and that they have a reasonable chance of electing candidates who represent their interests. And elected officials are more responsive to constituents when voters have a choice of candidates, thus increasing accountability and serving the best interest of the voters of Indiana. The Special Interim Committee on Redistricting is to produce a final report that supports comprehensive redistricting reform, which incorporates the following: a citizen-led commission composed of Indiana voters who are representative of the state's diversity, partisan balance, and geographic for all future redistricting. The commission will oversee the process to draw the lines of the state Senate, State House of Representatives, and congressional districts. I'll apologize that I'm not more informed. This was kind of dropped on me 2 days ago. And I have not been directly involved, neither has Shiloh, in the conversation that Barbara Anderson obviously has at the state level.
I think you represented Ms. Anderson well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I do believe that there's going to be a little bit more information out come the beginning of December. That's when the report is wrapping up that this interim commission is doing as far as looking to see what the options are and how that could affect the process as well. So at that point, we might have a little bit more information. But it's something to be considered for the time being.
Am I allowed to walk around?
yes, ma'am.
This is, Shiloh brought this with her. This is something that
It's
has
not
a lot
printed
of
properly.
information on it. I apologize that we didn't have copies for each and every one of you.
Okay.
Should have, but if you maybe have
Let me-
a copy of it for you, has a lot of information about
Okay. Ms. Conlon, would you mind scanning and emailing it to the council?
I'll be glad to. Just to give you all an update, they did hold their final meeting today at 1 o'clock, the Redistricting Interim Study Commission. I just looked it up, and they have, like they said, did a draft, and they have 8 proposed amendments to that draft. So,
Should be lots of forthcoming information then.
mhm.
Does anybody else have any questions? Comments?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Austin.
Thank you for your time, and my first time in the Jeffersonville City Council. It's very professional, may I say. Very professional.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pruitt, an ordinance amending portions of the zoning ordinance.
Good evening again. All right, before you is a favorable recommendation from the Plan Commission to update our zoning ordinance. This is specifically in reference to Article 12, which is process and permits and fees. So one of the things that we've had a challenge with in the city as of recent is occasionally businesses not coming to check with us to make sure they're in compliance with our use tables and our zoning code before operation or purchasing a building. Obviously, we don't like coming back in and telling people that something that they've pursued or spent money on or time is not going to work out, or that they're going to have to get some special approvals, and then it beleaguers their process. So one of the things that my office came up with is the Certificate of Zoning Compliance. So this would request, it would make a rule that before you are to operate a business on a property or take up use of land, so it could be for things that aren't necessarily going to be building a new building, but the land would be used, such as like agricultural product storage or outdoor storage of something, or a parking lot. It may not be an actual building. That they would come to our office, fill out a one-page form. In Exhibit A there, you've got two pages, one that shows another community's certificate of zoning compliance as a reference, and then one that we've drafted up. It's not necessarily the final form, but it shows you basically that, in one sheet they can quickly tell us what they're looking to do, and then my office can give an official determination of whether their business and use of that land is permitted or is not permitted, or they need a special approval. So that kind of takes care of us legally right up front, so that somebody can't say, well, I came to talk to somebody, or I thought I was okay, and verbal things are happening. And so I'd prefer to have it official, so that they're protected as a business owner and a property owner, as well as my office is protected. And this is something similar to our already existing vacant property registration, which we require for all vacant properties in the city. That helps us in code enforcement. It gives us basically a list that we can keep track of better, the ones that we know are vacant, so we can keep on top of grass and all those other violations that come up. So this is more of a way for us to combat use violations and kind of get out ahead of the process and make sure that the business community is working with the planning department up front and doesn't get into a situation later down the road. So that's one portion. Was there any questions about that?
How would a business know if they need to come in to do this?
Well, I'm definitely going to have to do some public media outreach. It's going to be listed on our department's Facebook page, our city official page. Hopefully Building Commission can link over as well on their page. It has all their rules and restrictions before you start building a building. But basically, we're going to put that out there in the public knowledge as much as we can. I'm going to hopefully coordinate with local media to get some information out there as much as possible. It's not going to be something that I'm trying to hide. Obviously, this is about awareness and working with people rather than trying to catch up.
Is this, if I could, is this for like new businesses come in, or somebody buys a building, could use a different use? Or
it could be that as well. Yeah, so it's not going to be every business in the city tomorrow needs to come talk to me. It's only new businesses that are coming in or new uses occupying a vacant space.
Do you know how many building inspectors we have?
I believe there's 2 full-time and 1 part-time. Plumbing and electrical, and then a part-timer.
And then, okay.
Thank you.
And they actually, to their credit, they help us a ton. They're out there every day doing inspections. They're out in River Ridge almost every day, and they drive by things, and they actually will come to me in my office at the end of the day and say, hey, did you see that, we see some activity at this building. Have they come to talk to you? So we try to do as much liaison as we can between the building commission and my office.
So this new required certificate also includes a required $50 fee?
Yes.
Fee?
Yes.
Are you going to discuss also the proposed schedule of fees?
Yes, that's the second portion of this favorable recommendation. I'll get into that in just a minute, unless, do you have any questions
I
about?
just wanted to make sure that was addressed.
Sure.
Was there any discussion, it outlines the $50 fee and the $250 fine if a business opens without the CZC?
It's a hard one.
Was there any discussion on if I move into a building and don't realize I need to have this certificate, can we make that a $250 fine if you don't have the certificate within 10 days of notice from your office? Or I feel like it's...
Or an appeal process?
I feel like there's... I feel like you're never going to do enough public information campaigning to let every person who wants to open shop know that they've got to have this or they're going to pay a $300 fee.
I do understand what you're saying. A couple points. One, we get calls to our office weekly, both redevelopment as well as planning as well as building commission, asking if we have a business license. So I would say the margin of people who don't call is kind of small.
Except anybody that opens a small business, just...
They call our office.
And they do call the clerk's office as well. It's pretty prevalent. People know, most cities do have business-style licenses. That's not exactly what this is. But I think it's fairly common for people to reach out. And also, and I don't mean to sound belittling at all, but we also post speed markers on the road, and people don't follow those. And we can, like you say, do lots of public outreach. There's always going to be a few players that don't play by the rules. That's just how things happen with ordinances and laws. I think that this puts us, though, in a good position moving forward to do the best we can between both the legal department, the planning department, and the building commission, and protecting business owners as much as we protect the city and ourselves. Because as Les can probably allude to, we spent a lot of time talking to business owners in the last 8 months over some cases that could still go through the court system because they're still unresolved because of these types of things. So it just helps us protect the city's interest in making sure that things are followed.
And Mr. Pruitt, you're the expert on this subject. I think, too, that might be their concern. So in your opinion, do you feel in any way that this could be a deterrent for new businesses coming into the city of Jeffersonville?
No, I absolutely don't. Yeah. To be honest with you, $50 I would hope would not be an amount of money that are going to damage your revenue lines so much that you wouldn't be able to open. I think that it is fairly innocuous in a sense. The rate, the fee. I think it's actually low. I just wanted to match what we already had with our vacant property registry so that we're kind of consistent, and it's just like vacant property registry. It's a one-page form and it's a quick yes or no, it's basically filing. And this is much in the same, that it's just a quick, let's review it, talk about your use. If we need additional information, that gives us an opportunity to kind of get that on record.
And I just wanted to add, too, in our planning and zoning meeting, there was a lot of discussion on this. He's done a lot of background, a lot of research on this subject. So, as compared to other Class 2 cities and what's going on all around us.
Any other questions on the CZC portion?
How do we plan on enforcing this? I mean, you would have to know when if someone is changing the use of the property
Sure.
beforehand, and then
well,
the fining would begin at some date. I don't.
So just as a level of background information, our building software actually records the ownership, occupant of record, and business. And so we're constantly updating that information. We actually have a pretty healthy database and know generally what is in most buildings in the city. And so between the building commissioner's department, with many of their longstanding legacy with the city, as well as my office, and us being out there on foot every day, we've got a pretty good understanding of what's there and what's not. We wouldn't be actively going out and patrolling, as it were. It would be more of a, this would be public information, public knowledge that this is a process that has to be followed. When we do become aware of a situation where it hasn't been followed, that's when this process would start, maybe with the fines. But I understand what you're saying. How do we know when something new is coming in? Well, we don't know. That's why we want them to come to us, so that we can verify for them that they're in compliance, so that they don't buy equipment or hire staff and then open, and then Les and I have to have a conversation with them in our office that their use is not permitted.
Well, I just think it's taking that perceived risk away from the business owner and then saying, well, don't worry, the city government is going to make that decision on if it's not going to pass or not. I don't want to we can move forward with it, but I just think it's important questions to ask.
Sure. No, I completely understand your point of view. I mean, we do have the zoning ordinance, which sets uses and use standards across the city.
Which is also public information.
That's correct. It is. It is very much so. But there is a level of expertise to that document that sometimes can be difficult for small business owners to navigate. And we are a resource to help them through that. They don't deal with landscape codes every day. They don't deal with setbacks every day. They don't sometimes understand what it means when it says special exception. Sometimes they don't know how to navigate that. So it gives us an opportunity to speak with and help them through that public document, because it's about 550 pages. It's pretty lengthy.
So don't take this as a judgment of this, but you're saying we've created a 550-page document that now we're going to require you to pay me $50 to figure out?
Well, I would say the building commission has a 1,000-page building code, and things aren't built to code for that, and he helps people interpret that as well, and they have a building permit fee. So the way I'm approaching this is not unsimilar, I think, to, for instance, how the building commissioner has a very large voluminous document that he has to make sure is abided by in construction. And this is in the same way, except it's up front. It's at the use stage. It's at the beginning interest in the property.
I understand the dilemma. I understand the problem. I understand
Sure.
the unfortunate conversations that have to come about because someone doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing with the usage. But it's also, when you compare it to building codes, we have those checked because the building can catch on fire or collapse. We're doing this to prevent an unfortunate conversation. To me, those two things, I understand your point.
It's more than that, I would argue, and I completely understand your point, but when you talk about future growth and delineating your city in a way that's both public resource efficient, creating the districts and the livability that you want, the type of uses and areas that you want to facilitate a certain character in, uses and the way buildings are used are very important to that feature. So I think that planning does a lot more than just those initial use conversations just being an unfortunate byproduct, because it creates a safety for the entire community, making sure we're valuable in the long run, not only and safe for individuals and individuals using buildings, but also in districts and in areas. That's kind of my bigger goal always.
I think there are definitely instances where this is going to be a useful tool. For instance, an idea of commercial property can mean several different things when you're talking about, is this a healthcare clinic or is this a pill mill? What's moving into my neighborhood?
Sure.
And how can the city protect from that if something like that were to happen?
Mm-hmm.
When we had something like that move into Jeffersonville before, there was very little that we could do from our standpoint in rectifying that situation.
Right.
kind of protecting that neighborhood from that situation.
Sure.
Whereas I assume if this is in place and somebody opens something that's not so nice, and then we have some sort of leg to stand on in court that says, hey, they're operating without any certification, you know.
But if it's an accepted use, that's the part of this I don't understand. But if it's an accepted use,
well, we would be
can fine
arguing
them $250, but we certainly can't make them stop doing an accepted use, right? So the $250, you know.
I've got a problem with the $250 without
And I
any
will
kind
say
of-
as well, as somebody who started a business, which is still in existence in Jeffersonville 15 years ago, we would have had no
idea.
No idea. To think that like small businesses would know about this is zero. Like a small percentage of people would know.
You didn't call?
I did not call. No, I did not call. And again, don't take this as badgering or that I'm even going to vote against this.
I understand.
I'm just bringing up that like this is one more thing. You go, well, it's just a piece of paper in my office. Well, if you've ever started a business, you know that those pieces of papers that go to someone's offices is this big. You know, just on the binder we had on what kind of bathroom do we need was voluminous. So is a page a burden? Well, no, but there's no way people will know, and I do kind of have a problem with the $250. But somebody who's dealing in good faith, I'm trying to look out for the citizen who isn't trying to skirt the system. They're just not going to know this, and I don't know where I am.
I would say one additional thing. For instance, the building commissioner can charge double the building fees if you begin construction before you get a building permit. Again, I'm modeling these things after policies that are already in place with building commission and with other departments that I work with. And they've exercised that option, and that developer no longer builds without getting building permits before they start. It's a way to help ensure that conversation is had with business owners, and I do understand that there could be a lag in that knowledge. I don't know if Les has any recommendation. I think if we change anything here, it has to go back to Plan Commission.
I think there's a little bit of a difference, though, when you talk about a builder isn't going to build without his permits next time. Obviously, a builder is going to build much more often than a business owner is going to open another business or move to a different location. A builder is going to need his building codes or his building certificate frequently because that's the nature of his business.
Sure. This
zoning certificate is not the nature of whatever business comes to Jeffersonville.
We see a lot of tenants that come in and ask if they need a business license, if they need electrical permits, if do they need to update their hoods, what fire certification do they need. So, I mean, I do get what you're saying that there is going to be some, but we do see a lot of tenants as well. Yeah.
And for those people, none of this $250 applies because they'll pay their $50 and you'll certify them and it'll be great.
Yeah.
But all the people that don't know, because they don't know, are going to pay the price.
I follow what you're saying. I've seen over the years people are looking for direction and what to do and to be reassured that they're doing the right thing or how to do certain things. I just have a problem with the fine being as high as it is. I would like to see that lowered, but I don't have a problem with the process itself. I think it'd be beneficial, in fact.
I think
it'll be beneficial.
And one of the things that tenants that change is they go to sign. They change their sign. And they think, okay, well, I can put whatever I want out there for the most part. They think it's pretty much the same business. I'm just going to put my plaque out there and make it blank or make it bigger.
Right.
But everything else is the same. No, it's not in compliance.
Right.
And then they come back after the fact. Or, it's the same, pretty much the same business setup. I'm going to store my stuff here. And all of a sudden now people have trouble driving around it. It's like, well, no, it's not the same business. Now you're obstructing, a walkway or a roadway.
Well,
Those things do come up.
I mean, at that point, then it's addressed. I still have, I don't know if anyone's really going to get fined $250 because I don't see how we can enforce this. I don't see how anyone's going to know when a fining needs to take place, even before you start talking about the amount of the fine. The people that are going to proactively ask if there's a certificate that they need, they'll pay the $50, but the people that don't, I don't see how they will even be, what system is in place to collect those coins.
state that?
How will we find it?
Let me explain what I was just asking him about. So if you reference Exhibit A, it's the page 1 of 5 in the zoning ordinance staff report. There were some bullet point notes. The proposed amendment would, and then it follows there with 3 bullet points. And then below there I have adopting language. We didn't, at Plan Commission, discuss thoroughly the $250 fee. I think it's Les's interpretation that adopting language is the only portion that's really applicable, and I think we could maybe take out the $250 fee portion.
Fine.
So this came with a favorable recommendation that you didn't discuss what's being...
I said we didn't discuss in detail the $250. It was all before them. I asked if they had questions. We ran through the language.
Doesn't you go back to planning and zoning? It would sound like it to me.
We can do that too. That's a perfectly fine option.
So the fee schedule was a part of what was voted on and recommended?
Both of them were sent on at the same time, amending Article 12, both portions.
But that language was in there.
But you technically only would adopt, you would only vote on the adopted.
Yeah, I think the problem is, I think if you look at the adopting language, it's not including fine in there, but if you state that, then there's no language in there regarding requiring a fee.
Other than it's saying in an amount established by the city council.
Yeah, so the fucking fees that have to be established in separate.
And you could set that at your discretion tonight, I think, in this, or at another meeting.
I wouldn't know what to fine somebody. That would...
I would just follow what the building inspector does and say it's double what it would be, so it'd be $100. Right, it'd be double for not giving, not following the recommendation to come in and talk ahead of time. No, it's not that expensive. I mean, I know it's still another process. I know it's still more bureaucracy in government, but I think I do see business owners. They call and they're looking for guidance, and it's a way that just formalizes the process for guidance.
I know I've had at least one person call and say that exchanged some emails or there were some conversations and what he was doing was approved and now it's not. So this would prevent that, if I understand.
Yes, this would be
Because he would have...
This would be their proof.
File and say, okay.
They would get a copy, and then we would have a copy on file with a signature of a staff person.
I will say from the legal department's standpoint, it is problematic for us. Businesses do open it that are not prepared for that zoning classification. We have a couple going on right now. This would give us another ability to go in to the court and shut down instead of arguing about whether or not they're meeting that classification. I don't want to get into specifics but
Hair salon?
there's several.
That's still
So,
running.
okay, but, so you say arguing with them that they
You don't wanna
don't
get
meet
specific, but-
that zoning. Wouldn't that be something that would be brought before the court to decide? The interpretation of...
At some point, but they're not going to be open in the meantime. Right now, we're arguing over whether or not they need to be rezoned, and they're operating, they're open. Because everything's on hold until the court decides.
Nathan, would you like to take this back to planning and zoning and redefine it a little bit more, fine tune it, and bring it back to us?
The only language that would change for me is doubling to 100 instead of the 250. I'm comfortable with this language if legal agrees that...
I think if you make any, unfortunately, I think if you make any change, it's going to have to go back to planning commission. They made
Right there, I mean, that's where it should be.
as it is, and if you make a change, it's got to go back for them to sign off.
I have a question about the fees. Even if we change the fees? are the fees to help, are we going to add staff to monitor this? Or is it for that? Is the fees just a stick to try to get them to comply? Because, you know, I'm of the mindset too of kind of what Scott said of new businesses, small, particularly small, not the larger ones, smaller ones that have never gone into business. They very possibly wouldn't know, and I have an issue with that. And if the fee's not the big deal, if we can shut them down if they haven't gone through the process, seems like that's the stick. And you know, we don't charge anybody to come to our concerts. Yet we're going to charge somebody that wants to bring in money in business our city. We're going to start feeing them, and I don't think that's a good approach. So I don't know. I'm just curious about if it's to offset the cost of somebody.
There's certainly staff time that has to be taken into account, and the paper that we have to print this on and file it, and the time spent on filing. There's certainly costs involved. I haven't tabulated them and come up with a fine number, but it can certainly support taking care of some of those costs. Again, it's not unlike any of the other existing things we have, such as the vacant property registry, which also recoups time, and updating our system and our registry, and many of the other things that we have.
So would these fees not need to be included in the schedule of fees that we haven't gotten to yet, to be added? Mr. Merkley?
Looking at this again, I think Scott's correct. I think the way the ordinance was written, I think if you adopt this ordinance as is, I think you are adopting, this may not have been the intent, but I think you are adopting everything today.
Yeah, because what I was just discussing with Les, the proposed ordinance amendment portion of the zoning on page 1, if you look at that, what you're doing now, therefore being ordained, you look at section 1, the certificate of zoning compliance talks about requiring the application. And you look at section 2, official fee schedule, amending the schedule of fees in Article 12 as shown in Exhibit A. Well, Exhibit A is 5 pages, so if you look at page 1, 5 Exhibit A, I mean, that whole document is Exhibit A. That's the problem legally when you're saying we're adopting Exhibit A. And Exhibit A includes, right there in the middle, the proposed amendment would amend the process of Article 12, which involves requiring the application to the certificate of compliance. It specifically says requiring a $50 fee and a fine. That's part of Exhibit A.
Sure.
By adopting the ordinance, I do believe you're adopting the entire exhibit. All 5 pages of the exhibit. Not just $50 and $250, but also the proposed schedule of fees on page 5. All of those fees will be adopted. It's all Exhibit A. It's just legal.
So maybe I should request that it be tabled, and I can come back with revised.
Should we table it?
Number 70. The ordinance 70.
So motion and a second to table 16 OR 70. Anything else? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. And
Kevin Metcalf.
yes. Ms. Metcalf. Oh,
Yeah,
I was
down
on
here.
the, yeah. I was like, where am I? Sorry. Ordinance transferring funds.
Coming up here a lot tonight. All right. These are for the animal shelter and for the fire department, just to get some accounts in there, some funding for their accounts.
I have a question on the cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Is that for the animal shelter director, or is that for the employees?
I'm not sure. I would assume that it would probably be for the animal control officers. But I can check on that and see.
I'll make a motion to pass 2016 OR 71 on first and second.
Second. So motion and second for 16 OR 71. Anything further? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Ms. Metcalf again.
This is in the fire pension fund, and it is appropriating cash that we have already received, and the money comes from the state.
I'll make a motion to pass 2016 OR 72 on first and second.
Second?
It's motion and second. Anything further? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
All righty. Council Attorney report, Mr. Lewis. Are there any department heads that would like to speak? I don't see any. Public comment. Do we have any public comment?
We had one person sign up for tonight.
Okay. Public comment, just as a reminder, is 3 minutes. When you come up, I have Brenda Ryan. If you would, just give your
Yes.
name.
Hello. I am here because my brother, this is my sister Sharon. My brother, Junior Lee Montgomery, was hit and killed as a pedestrian in December on Spring Street. It was a hit-and-run accident. The young man who hit him said he never saw anything that night. So the situation exists that from Dutch Lane all the way up to Eastern Boulevard, there are no sidewalks. Many people walk up and down there all the time. There's a mobile home park on one side, public housing on the other side. They have to walk up and down there to get to the bus, to stores. You can't save my brother, but it's a glaring situation. It's very dangerous. I believe it's in District 2. Is that right, Mr. Astani?
Yes, it is.
So we are here to bring this to your attention in the hope of saving other people's lives. We've been told that this has happened, someone has been hit along there 2 or 3 other times. We don't know that for sure, but that's what a store owner told us. He owns Young's Corner there, that filling station, and he told us that positively that has happened. So we just don't understand. Sidewalks were put in a lot of new areas in 2015. Areas where people hardly ever walk. I live there, I know. And in this area where people walk a lot, no sidewalks. And, not even really good lighting. So it's a really dangerous situation. And, so we'd like to see the process at least started to get it remedied. And, of course, we would like to know why the sidewalks were stopped. They were stopped at Dutch Lane last year. Didn't go all the way up to Eastern Boulevard.
I concur with everything she says. It's in the district, and it's one of those stretches that one side was further up Hamburg Pike. It was taken care of by redevelopment to redo the street and do the sidewalk, and then redevelopment improved the corner there and did a sidewalk, but there's a space in the middle of our sidewalk was never done, and it's not part of the sidewalk master plan, but it should be. And so I totally agree, and I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm glad you brought it to our attention. I have not heard of anyone else being hit previously, and we spend millions of dollars on sidewalks, and that's one area that we need to try to make a priority.
What has to take place for it to, become a reality?
It's going to start now.
Pardon?
It'll start now. We put money every year towards sidewalks, and I will talk to the engineer and make sure that it's on the plan in the future, and we'll try to get it, done, put it on their schedule to get it done.
Okay, so it's just a matter of actually putting it into the schedule. There's nothing that's really...
Have to design it, land acquisition, find out what the cost is.
Surrounding.
Yep, and approve it all. It's a process. It's not going to be as fast as you like, so it's going to take a little while. But the process will start.
So I'm sorry, I can't hear you really well, but...
The process will start, and it takes a while. It takes engineering, it takes land acquisition, it takes funding, estimate of cost, all that kind
Right.
of stuff will have to happen, but the process will start.
But it absolutely will start, and
I'll do everything in my power to make it start, and I think this council's been
Absolutely.
I
supportive
think everyone
of
feels
sidewalks
the
and
same way. Is
pedestrian
everyone
right-of-ways.
familiar with this area? I mean, it's
Yes.
just a real serious need. Okay.
I'd like to say, when I was on the council in 95, start 95, and then my second term 2003, that was brought up many a times by Nellie Nolan, who lived out there, the need for sidewalks.
It needs lighting up there too. It is dark.
Thank you very much.
And our condolences.
Yes.
Thank you.
Council comment? Mr. White?
I do have a few comments. Jay Ellis dropped off Oktoberfest tickets for the council, October 21st, downtown, sponsored by Jeff Main Street and Urban Enterprise Zone. So if you want a ticket, let me know. And just to revisit the budget that we passed today, I was very happy to vote for the budget today. I think it's a good budget. I think it represents what we want to do here, which is make sure we have a properly functioning municipality and that our people are properly compensated for the work that they do. But I want to just stress that when we pass an ordinance, then we are creating law. And to pass an ordinance, or to modify or to update an ordinance, it takes 3 readings to do that. I want to just make sure that now that we know what the process is, that we follow it so we don't end up in a situation like we had to go through tonight. It wasn't fun for me to do that, but I want to make sure that, I know that some people were not aware of this ordinance. I know many people weren't because I was asking for it and I had to search for it and find it myself. So now that we are aware.
Councilperson White, with my help.
Yes, absolutely.
Want to get that in.
So I just wanted to stress that it's important that we follow the processes that we set out for ourselves. We have an ordinance violation bureau that's going to be up and running pretty soon, and so as an attorney, I use the example of, so police pull someone over for ordinance violation, and then he comes to the ordinance violation bureau and says, well, I substantially complied with the ordinance, so I'm not paying this penalty. I think we should pay particular attention to the things that we set out for ourselves to do and abide by them, or repeal it. I mean, it's up to us. Again, I was happy to vote for the budget, but I just wanted to make sure that I make the point because I feel strongly about it. I think it's our duty to follow the things that we set out for ourselves, and we took an oath when we took this office to uphold the laws of the state, and our ordinances are the laws of the state. Thank you.
Mr. Zastani?
I wasn't going to say anything, but I am going to say something now. I was here when the council set up the salary ordinance as we see today, setting up job descriptions and pay grades, and adding the wording to that ordinance that was referenced today. And the intent of that was so that the administration wouldn't hire people at the previous salary that was approved, because often, or that was available. So it was more of the council's responsibility as a fiscal body to be able to set salaries, and for the administration not to slide people in. And I'm not saying this administration is doing that, but it has happened in the past. So as it's the fiscal body's responsibility to set the salaries, and I think the fiscal body was aware of and been part of the process and throughout the budget and discussion. So I don't feel like we circumvented the ordinance or, went around the ordinance or didn't follow the ordinance. I think we as a council, as a fiscal body, had discussions, and was aware of the position and what the salary was being discussed, so that's all.
Ms. Young?
No comments for me.
Mr. Maples?
No comment.
Ms. Gill?
Better not.
Mr. Hawkins?
I do. But my comments are directed towards Ms. Ryan, if she can hear me. My comments are directed toward Ms. Ryan and people like her. Ms. Ryan contacted me and told me her story that we heard tonight, and I directed her in the right path. I said, it's Mr. Zastovny's district, and this is the way city council meetings work, and everybody gets a chance to come for public comment, and everybody can express a concern. And I was so happy to see Ms. Ryan here tonight and articulate what happened, this tragedy that happened in her family, and now she is going to, and it'll take longer than you want, but this is the way it should work. She has a legitimate concern, she brings it to her councilman, we discuss it, and then we try our best to remedy those concerns. And that wouldn't have happened had you not came here tonight.
Right,
And it's no easy thing for someone who is just a citizen to come into a governmental setting with the fancy room and the microphones.
Exactly.
And here you are. So I just wanted to say thank you to you and people like you who do this. This is the way it should work.
I just want to add that the young man who hit my brother also feels very concerned about this because he's a victim of it also. He's 18 years old and his life is altered forever. And he had told me he was going to be here tonight, but apparently it was just too difficult for him to do it. You know, but his life is just so destroyed. He says he doesn't know when he ever wants to drive again. You know, so it affects so many people, you know, not just our family. So I really appreciate it and hope it can be expedient, of course.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
And that's all.
Mr. Samuel?
No comment.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I'd like a ticket, Dustin, and Saturday is the Sugar Skull Shake Shake. It starts at 9, it goes till 5. So I would like to hopefully see somebody down there besides myself.
5K at 9.
I'm not a runner, so.
I said 9 to
5K is
5.
5K.
I'll run if you run. How about that? I'll bring my bike. And the other thing was, it was a good experience to deal with the budget process, so I'm glad it's over and that we can move forward. You know, I'm sorry to hear about Mrs. Ryan's brother, and I'm glad that Ed's going to get on that and get those sidewalks in the right direction. That's it.
Okay. The only thing I think there were two things. One thing that I wanted to add, I wanted to ask about, I think we need to have a claim submitted for the portion that comes out of gaming for the Steamboat Days festival. I think because of some cash flow issues, we didn't move forward with that before. So they are still waiting to get that portion from the council that we had previously committed. So we need to do that so that they can close out their
We just need to submit a claim.
accounts. Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't forgetting something that we had already approved.
I did forget something. Bring it, see where we are on the ordinance controls, the internal controls.
Yes, that is another thing. We need to get together, at least myself and Scott, and Les, and whoever else needs to be involved, Lisa, on the internal controls. We have not met on that. We have not made any progress on that.
Do the
and
31st of this end of the year, right?
They have to be in place by the end of the year so that we can start training and be in
That's 3
compliance.
Or 2 weeks.
Right. So if we can coordinate schedules and set a time to sit down, that is very important. And we need to get moving. Every time I see Heather upstairs, she's asking me, and we have not moved forward. But back onto Steamboat Days, the Parks Department
this evening upstairs at our meeting gave a report, and I'm not going to share the figures with you because they're still waiting on some last-minute things, but it appears that Steamboat Days did very well as far as the fiscal picture. So that is a positive note. And also on a positive note, the building at the Worley Complex is nearing completion. So we're hoping to get a punch list together over the next week or two to go through that project and make sure that we've got everything up to par with that. So we should be seeing that building open and those construction crews leaving rather soon. So I just wanted to share that with you all.
Halloween thing.
Oh, yes. Next week, next Monday is trick-or-treating downtown with the, in Big Four Station. Sent out an email. Ms. Yan volunteered to head that up if we wanted to have a booth for the council participate. So I don't know if there are others who could volunteer to be down there. I'm going to volunteer some time to be down there. I know several of us usually go, but if you could just coordinate with Ms. Yan so she knows that we're covered and we have the ability to staff a booth if we put one
Done
in.
it every year and had to do it the whole time.
Yeah.
So make sure you get your time scheduled because they kind of don't show.
That was the old council.
That was the... yeah.
Whatever.
I'm going to give Don Spike a run for money and decorate our booth. We'll see how it goes.
If there's nothing else, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We're adjourned.